Hello and welcome to a Learn to Drive file and folder management for Google Drive or in Google Drive. In this video I'm just going to show you really quickly how to share a folder and some of the uses or reasons why I would share a folder in Google Drive. I think it's a pretty cool feature and a pretty neat tool in Drive. So let's go ahead and get started. If you look at Google Drive, you can see that some of my folders have a little person on them and some of them don't. All that's telling me is that a folder with a little person is a folder that I have shared with either other students, other colleagues, other people. So I have lots of shared folders in my drive. I have a handouts folder. I have a whole folder of shared folders, and these are all folders that I have shared with my teammates. Now, why would I want to share a folder with my teammates? Well, maybe I'm working on a math project and maybe I create it and I don't want to go over and give my colleague a hard copy of the paper, so I would put it in my shared math folder and they could pull it out and use it if they want. It's an easy way to keep track of all my files and folders that I might give to my colleagues or coworkers. So that's why I would create a shared folder for my colleagues. For my students, I have a handouts folder and I have a turn-in folder. I'm just going to go ahead and discuss really quick how I create these folders, and then I'll tell you how I use my handouts folder, how I use my turn-in folder, and then finally how I might use these shared folders with my colleagues as well. So how do you create the folder? Well, before we even started, I created a regular folder just by going into Create and choosing a folder, and I just named that folder Test Shared Folder. So if you click on the folder right now, there's nothing in the folder. So to share this folder with your colleagues or peers or your students, all you need to do is right-click on the folder and choose Share. And you can see it also has a little person right there. I'm going to share this folder with people who I want to share it with. One way to share it is to invite them individually. So I might share it with my teammates in 4th grade. So I just made a quick contact list, and I'm going to share this folder with my teammates right there. One thing you want to pay attention to when you're in Drive is whether the folder is going to be a CanEdit folder or a CanView folder, and that just depends on who you're sharing or why you're sharing a document with the person or the people. Typically when I make a folder that I'm sharing with my colleagues, it's something we may be working on together, so I would make it a CanEdit. So anytime someone drags a presentation or a Google document into that folder, whoever has permission right here to view the folder can actually edit those documents inside of that folder. Now, if I'm doing one with my students and I want to use it as like a handout folder where it's just basically a document that I want them to reference or something that I would hand out a paper in class, I would choose CanView. And CanView basically means any document that I put into this folder, whether it be a presentation or a document or whatever it is that I put in here, the person who I shared it with, these people down here, can only view that document. So they would have to make a copy of the document to use it, or they would have to ask for permission to use it. I use both of these features all the time. I use both the CanView and the CanEdit. It just depends on the situation. Do you want someone to edit your work or edit what you've done? If not, you want to make it CanView. If you want it to be a document that you're working on with someone, or you want them to be able to edit or give input on the document, then you want to make it CanEdit. Hopefully that makes sense. Just like when you would share an actual document with somebody else. So just a cool feature in Google Drive is being able to create a shared folder. This down here, notify people via email, just means if you want to tell them through email that you're sharing the folder, you leave it checked. If you just want to be like, hey, Amy, Jean, I shared a folder with you the other day. It's in your drive. It should be in your shared with me. So it just depends on how you want to share it. If they don't know it's coming, I would usually leave this clicked. If you're going to tell them in person at a meeting, or you're doing it at a meeting and you're together, uncheck the box because they don't really need an email because you just told them in person. So creating a shared folder is pretty easy. You can also share with everyone in the district. So if I were to click this and then say CanView, everyone in the district would get a note from me or a message that says, oh, I shared this folder with you. So you don't really want to do that unless you really want to share with everybody in the district. You could do with link. Then you could put a link like in a presentation or something and people could share it that way. Public on the web, probably not always the best idea because then anybody can see it. So I typically leave it private, only you can access, and then I change and invite people down below. So that's kind of how I do it. You just hit share and save when you're done, and that folder would then be shared with whoever you want. So now that's how you share the folder. Two ways that I use the folder in my classroom. The first way I use is a handouts folder, and I use a handouts folder just as I would hand out something in class. So maybe I made a copy of an assignment at the printer. I'm going to take that copy of the assignment. I'm going to pass it to each student in class. Or I made a document that shows the directions or steps how to solve a problem with using text evidence. I might hand it out in class and give each student a copy of that paper. Well, in my handouts folder, I can do the exact same thing. Basically, here's one with answering with text evidence. I could make a paper version of this. I could print it from my computer, and I could hand it out to each student in class. But being as we're one-to-one, I don't have to do that. Or if you use the computers or the Chromebooks and Google Drive a lot, you don't have to do that. You can make this document, save the paper, and just share it with everybody in your class. And I shared it with everybody in my class by adding it to my handouts folder. So let me show you really fast what I did. I created a handouts folder, and this handouts folder, if I go to share right here, is shared with my students in my class. Okay, shared with every student in my class. And as you can see, I made it a can view. And you can be more specific. I could give some people permission to edit. In this case, I don't want anybody to edit. So these are my students in my class. It's can view. I only want them to see and view the document when they open it. So when they go in here and they need a document from the handouts folder, which I shared with them, which is now in their drive, all they have to do is come in here and choose the assignment that I said I was going to share with them. So one way that I use it is not as a template always, but this is just as a reference. So when we blog on Friday mornings, we have a list of questions and things that we want to talk about in our blog. So it has a little bit of a direction right there at the top. Instead of me posting this on the board every morning, I can use the board for something else now because they have access to this file in their Google Drive. All they have to do is go in there, open it up, and it'll be opened in a tab right here. Now they can't edit this document because I made it can view. I can, but the students cannot edit this document. Only I can because it's can view. Now how did I get it in there? Well, all I did was wherever this document's kept, so I keep this document in my writing folder. All I did was pull the document from my writing folder and I put it into my handouts folder, and now it's shared with all my students. So pretty simple. Let's say, for example, I'm just going to open up this math folder here really quick. Let's say I want to share this math 2x2 multi-step with my students. Let me look and see what this document is before I share it with them. Okay, it was a homework assignment. Okay, and actually it was in my folder originally. So I'm going to X this document out. I want to put this 2x2 assignment in their handouts folder for homework tonight. So I drag it over, drop it in their handouts folder, and I just pass that assignment out to everybody in my class. On my homework, I might say, complete the assignment that is called, and I forgot what it was, Math 2x2 Multi-Step Problems. And when they get home at night, they open it up. All they would need to do is go to File, and they would say Make a Copy, and then they would have their own version they could edit. They can't edit this version right now because it's in my handouts folder and it's only view only. So that's kind of how I use my handouts folder, as either something to reference. So I put that in there. I also put in my drive or in my handouts folder, I also put my class email addresses so they can get in contact with each other. I put our grading scale in there so they can see it. Then I also put homework in there. So here's a template, a homework template that I made. And normally I would make a copy of this at the printer and hand it out to everybody in class before the day's over. But now that we have Chromebooks, I just open the document up. I pull it into my handouts folder, and it's now shared with my whole class. And in my directions, I actually tell them exactly what they need to do to make this their copy so that they can edit it and fill it out. So that's part of my directions on the assignment. So creating a handouts folder is super handy, super useful, super efficient, and it's one of my favorite things about Google Drive. The next thing I have is a turn-in folder. So once a student makes a copy of this TFK changing problem and they finish the assignment, well, they need to be able to turn it back into me. And they don't turn it in by putting it in the handouts folder. They actually turn it in by putting it in their turn-in folder. I know, very basic. So they each created a turn-in folder in their drive, and anytime they add an assignment to that turn-in folder, I can see it and view it. That way I don't have to look in my shared with me. They don't have to go into the document when they get it and they don't have to click on that document and select share. Okay, they can just drag the file into the shared with me, or I'm sorry, into the turn-in folder, and I have access to it. And because when they made their folder, they made it can't edit, I can edit the document, I can leave notes on it, I can do what I want to that document. When they're done with it and they know I checked it, they can pull it back out and put it in their science folder or their reading folder, whatever the assignment goes. Wherever I tell them to put it, they can put it in there. So the turn-in folder is also useful. It's like a Dropbox for them to drop their assignments in. When they're done with them, or when I tell them that I don't need it anymore, they can pull them out and put them where they want. And it will no longer be shared. So for example, this assignment's in here right now, it's shared with me, but if this student pulls it out, it will no longer be shared with me. I won't have access to it anymore unless they go back into the actual assignment and give me access, which is fine with me because I don't need this assignment after I grade it and give it back to them. But if I need it for portfolio, they can just put it back in there, and I put it in there. So 2 cool ways that I use Google Drive. The turn-in folder, this is my class turn-in folders. They actually made these folders themselves, second day of school. And then also the handouts folder, and I use this to hand out homework in class or assignments in class, or they use it as a reference in class. So hopefully this helped you learn how to create a turn-in folder, and maybe a couple of the uses that I use them that I think are the most valuable way to use them in class. I'll show you really fast one more time how to create it. You make a folder of your choice, whatever you want to call it, name it. You right-click on that folder. You say share. You type in the people you want to share it with, and you say share and save. Don't forget to check can edit or can view. What do you want them to be able to share it with? So thanks for listening. Hopefully this helped you, and have a good one.